tonight. In the last days of the election cycle, the southern border has taken center stage.
Under the Trump administration, we will end this migrant invasion and we will deport every last criminal alien.
My highest priority is to put the resources into ensuring that our border is secure.
How American Latinos feel about the rhetoric coming from the campaigns. Plus,
we don't want poll workers to make honest mistakes, and those mistakes become risks.
From technology to teaching, the multi-level work being done to ensure your vote is safe when you head to the polls. And U.S. officials head back to the Middle East to push for a hostage release and ceasefire. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. Just 5 days to go now until America decides who will be our next president. Good evening in Washington. I am Tara Mergener. Well, former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris are hot on the campaign trail, turning west to rally support among undecided voters. Today, both candidates are stumping in Nevada and Arizona. Trump is focused on immigration, vowing to carry out the largest deportation in American history. He's also trying to appeal to women amid concerns from some Republicans that his rhetoric could turn them off.
I want to protect the women of our country. They said, sir, I just think it's inappropriate for you to say, pay these guys a lot of money. Can you believe it? I said, well, I'm going to do it whether the women like it or not. I'm going to protect them.
The Harris campaign was quick to pick up Trump's comments and attacked him about reproductive rights.
It actually is, I think, very offensive to women in terms of not understanding their agency, their authority, their right, and their ability to make decisions about their own lives, including their own bodies. And this is just the latest on a series of reveals by the former president of how he thinks about women.
As the nation counts down to Election Day, Americans are still lining up to vote early. So far, nearly 60 million people have already cast their ballots. Well, Rev Samuel Rodriguez joins us now for more. He is the president of the National Hispanic Christian Leadership Conference. Welcome, Reverend. Polls show many Latino voters are moving toward more conservative stances now on issues like the economy, education, and immigration. What do you believe is driving this shift in 2024?
The radical pivot towards the hard left on behalf of the Democratic Party. That's what's driving the shift. The Democratic Party of today is not the Democratic Party of Barack Obama in 2008. It is now the party of soft socialism, quasi-Marxism, open borders, over 15 million people coming in here illegally, bringing in fentanyl, strengthening the cartels, empowering the coyotes, unfortunately exacerbating human and sex trafficking. And the Democratic Party is now the party that believes that government should have the final word regarding our children. I mean, are you kidding me? 6, 7-year-olds that are questioning their sexuality? The Democratic Party believes that government has the right to dictate the sex of our children. Get your hands off our children. Latinos are saying enough is enough, pivoting towards conservatism.
Reverend, you just mentioned the border. Latino voters often feel very strongly one way or the other about immigration policies and having secure borders. How do you see them balancing their priorities as they evaluate candidates who may or may not like a whole lot one way or the other?
Yeah, unfortunately, listen, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, they blew it regarding immigration and the border. Completely blew it. They're permitting Venezuelan gangs to come in, impacting, by the way, Latino communities. How about that? When Donald Trump speaks about mass deportation, we want him to focus on mass deportation of those that have come in the past 3.5 years, primarily focusing on those that are of the criminal element. Indeed, we don't want him mass deporting people that have been here 20, 25, 30 years, who are God-fearing individuals paying taxes and so forth. So both sides, I think they both need to concentrate on an immigration solution that is acceptable to Congress and to the American electorate in a way that reconciles the rule of law with the fact that we are a nation of immigrants.
I have to ask you about this. There's been some backlash after a joke made at Trump's Madison Square Garden campaign event by a comedian about Puerto Rico. Do you think this is going to have any effect at all at the polls? A lot of people are being very judgmental about what the comedian said, and they're really upset about it.
you realize you're asking a Puerto Rican that question.
Right.
That joke was garbage. That joke was garbage. Listen, the day after, in full disclosure, the day after I met with President Trump, I was at an event in Georgia. I was able to greet him and so forth. I can tell you with 100% assurance, he had nothing to do with that joke. Zero, nada. If so, I would call him out on it. Zero. Absolute. Matter of fact, he called that joke inappropriate. Totally dumb. Matter of fact, he's not happy with whoever coordinated and scheduled that comedian. I can tell you that firsthand. So the campaign tweeted immediately and condemned it and rebuked it. And President Trump on another network and with another reporter actually said absolutely not, unacceptable. That joke was garbage. But listen, I'm going to tell you what's garbage. Open borders. What's garbage is transgender ideology impacting children. What's garbage is inflation and our current economic melees, high interest rates, mortgage rates. That's garbage. And that's the garbage we need to be focusing on as it pertains to removing come election day.
Reverend Samuel Rodriguez, appreciate your thoughts as always.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. All right, as millions cast their ballots, election security is at the top of many minds. A vast majority of states have increased security since 2020, hoping to ensure results can be trusted. National security correspondent Caitlin Burke explains how the Pentagon is teaming up with higher ed to keep ballots safe and secure.
In America, election equipment is considered critical infrastructure. Given its importance, the Defense Department enlisted a research team from 2 Maryland universities. Their task? A 3-year risk assessment focused specifically on the vulnerabilities of voting machines.
So we are looking at all the things that could possibly go wrong. Those could be an actor trying to disrupt something. Maybe, trying to break a machine or trying to vote for somebody who's dead or things like that. But they could also be honest mistakes.
Team member Dr. Natalie Scala of Towson University tells CBN News this is the perfect assignment for academia rather than government officials to tackle.
For academics, we look at it based purely on data, so we don't necessarily have a favorite candidate. We don't necessarily have an agenda to push. We just want that vote to stay the way it is. The moment somebody casts it to the moment we count it, we want nothing to happen there. And what can we do to make sure that integrity stays there so the American people can have their votes counted?
The project's focus involves optical scanners used by 70% of voters and ballot marking devices used by the remaining 30%.
We are looking at it from the, the average American standpoint and making sure that you feel confident and secure in the processes that we have.
In the past, Scala's lab provided training for Maryland poll workers, a project she says will add to their current research.
We don't want poll workers to make honest mistakes, and those mistakes become risks, or problems. And we also want poll workers to be able to identify if something is going wrong.
This is the first of the lab's 3-year Pentagon grant. The team will consider cyber, physical, and insider threats, an overall approach that hopefully results in protecting other critical infrastructure like the power grid. Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Washington.
Poll workers' perspective. We are joined by Dawn Gobe, an election officer in Portsmouth, Virginia. She is also a CBN employee. Dawn, this is an important job, and you've worked in several election cycles. What is different this time around?
Well, I've been doing this about 7 years. This is my second presidential election, and I've noticed a steady ramp up of hostility and anger among the voters. This time around, they've trained us to deal with what they call potential civil unrest, and we're told what to do if who takes the ballots, who takes the machine if something happens. It's very different. It's definitely ramping up.
Yeah, certainly. It's unfortunate that we have to think about that. We've also heard concerns about ballot harvesting and voter fraud. Obviously, a lot of concern about that. What can you say about the situation as far as how you and other poll workers are trained that might address some of those concerns?
Okay, first of all, with the training, I always say if anybody thinks there's voter fraud, they should become an election officer, because you see it from the inside out, and it's like virtually impossible. We have both Democrats and Republicans in every precinct. There's a chief and an assistant chief. Usually they're one of each party. We all throughout the day, we're rechecking the count. We have multiple people that do multiple seals on envelopes. Beyond all of that, though, I just want to say that the workers themselves are mostly retired. They don't make hardly any money from doing this. You're there from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. They are not doing it for any reason but that they care about the election. And so, like, I just ask people to be patient for the election workers and give them the benefit of the doubt.
Absolutely. And also, as a Christian, how are you personally preparing both for the election and the job you were tasked with doing at the polls, which seems to have gotten harder over the years as tensions have risen, in the whole voting process?
Right. Well, I pray for myself that God will use me, not just in the voting process, but that people will see Christ through me in the way that I deal with people and all of that. I ask for him to keep my focus and all of that. I also pray for my precinct and precincts all across the country that his spirit will be throughout there, that he will keep people focused and not hostile in any kind of way.
Of course. And, with those reported and potential looming threats of violence and civil unrest that are out there, what will keep you going through this election night and the rest of the process as voters get to the polls in the final hours?
Well, I will tell you, it's going to be really hard to stop me. I'll just say that. 4 years ago, we had a pandemic going on in 2020, and we didn't have vaccines yet. And I figure we got through that okay. We should be all right. But very first time I voted when I was a teenager, I just got this really unexpected wave of patriotism. I was just like, wow, like my voice counts. And it really struck me. And throughout the years, I've always voted. When my children were little, I'd bring them with strollers to the
Right.
polls. When they were old enough to vote, their first time we did together. But it's just that I think that everybody gets a voice. People died so that we can have this voice. And I'm grateful to be a part of it.
Dawn, we're so grateful to get your perspective right there down on the ground. Thank you for being with us.
Yep.
All right. An Illinois church wants to encourage the next president with prayer. Members have written thousands of letters in advance to lift up the new leader of the nation, regardless of who wins. CBN's Charlene Aaron has that story.
Willow Creek Community Church in South Barrington, Illinois, launched the letter writing campaign as part of its series, Prayers for the Next President. Leaders felt compelled by the biblical command to pray for those in authority and add that only positive letters will be sent to the White House.
There's these people who are running for something called president, and this leadership position is so heavy.
Megan Fate Marshman, teaching pastor at Willow Creek, hopes to ease that load by leading her congregation to pray for the country's next president.
I remember when the idea was pitched, we found ourselves thinking about what God's word leads us to do, which I'll tell you where this came from. 1 Timothy chapter 2, I urge you then, first of all, that petitions, prayers, intercession, and thanksgiving be made for, here it is, all people, not just those you agree with.
Those attending the church's multiple campuses have written more than 11,000 letters, which will be mailed after the election.
And someone in that position holding that type of pressure and having half the world hate you, man, they're going to need prayer to hold the mantle.
Marshman shares this letter from a high school student.
Dear President, you are trusted and you are loved, not just by the American people, but by God, to do what is right. That's what you're trusted to do. I can only imagine the infinite criticism and pressure, the pain that you will suffer through, but through it all, your power is a vessel of hope to bring unity, peace, and humility to this world.
The pastor sees this as proof of God's Spirit moving in the life of a church that wants to follow his heart for the nation's leader, despite political differences. It is a sentiment National Association of Evangelicals President Walter Kim applauds, especially as divisions abound, even within the church.
I think if we can incorporate the admonitions that we find throughout scriptures to love our enemy, to pray for those who persecute us, to recognize that we've been called the people of God, sent to proclaim this gospel of peace to the world.
Meanwhile, Regent University Dean of Theology, Dr. Corney Becker, offers this wisdom for believers.
If our person doesn't win the election, this is the time to really press into prayer. Firstly, we can pray that God can turn the heart of these folks that have been elected in. And secondly, we can continue to pray for revival to happen within our land. But it's pivotal that we need to show civility and respect. As the Apostle Paul says, let no corrupt communication come out of our mouth, but that every word be seasoned with grace.
Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Next, the new push to secure a ceasefire and free Israeli hostages when Faith Nation returns. And welcome back. Israel and Hamas don't appear any closer to reaching a ceasefire that would free Israeli hostages. On Thursday, Hamas said it rejects any agreement that does not permanently end the fighting in Gaza. Mediators proposed a temporary pause that would allow several hostages to go free. Meanwhile, the U.S. is reportedly growing confident about a potential ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah. Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu thanked the U.S. for those efforts.
I very much appreciate the support of the United States, and my policy is simple. When possible, I say yes, but when necessary, I say no.
On Thursday, Hezbollah killed at least 7 people in a series of rocket attacks. The victims include foreign workers in the northern Israeli city of Haifa. The attacks mark the deadliest strikes on Israel since the IDF invaded Lebanon last month. This as Israeli warplanes pounded Hezbollah targets across Lebanon Thursday, killing at least 8. While the crisis in the Middle East continues, Washington is sounding the alarm about North Korean troops in Russia. The U.S. says about 8,000 soldiers from the Hermit Kingdom are now on Ukraine's border. Today, Secretary of State Antony Blinken said they will be deployed soon to help Moscow's war against Ukraine.
We believe that the entire world should be insisting and demanding that the DPRK cease its provocative actions, both in terms of the repeated missile launches in violation of UN Security Council resolutions, and now also providing its troops for Russia's use in this war of aggression against Ukraine.
The U.S. believes North Korean troops will join Russia on the battlefield in a matter of days. Up next, transgender procedures for minors. Why some critics say they're doing more harm than good. Welcome back. House Republicans are pledging to investigate charges that a study by the National Institutes of Health is being withheld. The study reportedly shows transgender treatments have no mental health benefits for minors. This as new information shows hospitals are making big money off childhood transgender procedures. CBN's Lori Johnson reports.
New financial data shows transgender procedures on minors is both widespread and lucrative.
So absolutely, I think that the motive to simply make money is very much a driving force here.
Since 2019, doctors and hospitals have taken in some $120 million through prescribed puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones, plus surgically removed gender-specific body parts on 14,000 children. The real numbers are likely higher since patients paying out of pocket and some major healthcare centers don't report this information.
Let's face the facts. If morals and medical ethics are no object to you as a clinician, then the trans industry really offers a pretty great business model.
From a profit perspective, transgender minors are seen as a gift that keeps on giving.
They come back for, prescriptions across their lifetime. It can't be done in just one visit.
This current trajectory has the childhood transgender industry raking in billions. Meanwhile, a study showing no improvement to kids' mental health after taking puberty blockers has reportedly been hidden from the public for many years. The New York Times reports the researcher, Dr. Johanna Olson Kennedy, who runs the country's largest youth gender clinic in Los Angeles, still hasn't published her taxpayer-funded study from 9 years ago. I do not want our work to be weaponized, she admitted, pointing to the possibility of her study being used to convince more states to ban youth transgender procedures, adding to the 24 that have already done so.
What is happening to these kids is not medicine.
Dr. Eitan Haim, an outspoken critic of child transgender procedures, says too many doctors perform them even though there's no evidence they work.
These doctors believe they can become gods and create something new. It's not a doctor's job to harm people, even if the person wants it.
Likewise, regretful patients like Chloe Cole, who had her breasts removed at age 15 while trying to become a boy, are also sounding the alarm.
We need to stop telling 12-year-olds that they were born wrong, that they are right to reject their own bodies and feel uncomfortable with their own skin. My childhood was ruined, along with thousands of detransitioners that I know through our networks. This needs to stop.
So while youth transgender procedures remain widespread and lucrative, the lack of evidence they work, combined with some doctor and patient warnings, could lead to more states banning the practice. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Coming up, a White House Halloween. That's next on Faith Nation. And finally tonight, a White House twist on trick-or-treating. The annual event hosted by the President and First Lady welcomes local students and military kids to the White House for Halloween festivities. The theme of this year's celebration, Hallow Read, featuring a spooky story time and popular children's books characters like Corduroy, Peter Rabbit, and Madeline. Children picked up treats along the South Lawn to the South Portico, where they received candy and books. The White House said about 8,000 guests participated in this year's events, and that is a lot of readers. Well, that's going to do it for Faith Nation. We're so glad you could join us. We will see you back here tomorrow. Have a great night.